Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey everyone, it's the Oxley Bond MotoGP podcast back yet again from the Monday test. We're still at Jerez. It seems like we've been here half our lives. I've been coming here for 40 years now. Jesus fucking Christ, can you imagine that? Anyway, what are we talking about today, Peter? We're talking about the tests. We're here, there's a couple of hours still to go, but we've got planes to catch home, and so we just want to talk a little bit about today's tests and what they mean for the next few races. This is, in fact, there's only 3 more 1000cc tests left. This one, they've got a day after Barcelona, next month, I think. Is that next month or June?
Yeah.
And then a day at Red Bull Ring when you're allowed to test your 1000s or your 850s. So this is, we are really coming to the end of the 1000cc era. So where are we now? If I'm looking up at the time screen, looking at the live timing, so we've got, I'm just going to whiz you through the top 10. Well, here we go. Fernandez, Di Giannantonio, Bezzecchi, Quartararo, Alex Marquez, Martin, Acosta, Bagnaia, Moreira, Bastianini, Zarco, Binder, Marc Marquez, and then a few Yamahas.
It doesn't mean shit.
It doesn't mean shit.
Nothing.
It doesn't mean
nothing.
shit
No,
because the thing is, super loads of grip after 4 days, 3 days of racing. It's quite windy out there. The riders are exhausted. They don't really want to risk themselves too much. So there's a lot of testing, a little stuff going on, but it doesn't mean shit. You're right.
No, we had the chance to speak to a couple of riders already in the lunchtime, and usually riders and teams, test is super important because race weekends are too short to do something radical. And also there is new parts that are just too radical anyway to put on the bike. So you're always looking forward to the next test. But in this case, for some riders, it was really no point in doing a lot of laps. Imagine being Alex Marquez. He was completely too easy fast from the first laps he started to do on Friday morning. And now what happens? He wins the race, like easy, fingers in the nose. And then he comes back on Monday morning and it's actually even better because you start riding on your own rubber. And there was no rain overnight, so we just put more rubber on the same line. Even if you tune the bike backwards, it will still go faster. So he said, I'm working on little things, and he tried, he's professional. But basically, there's no point. He was saying, no. But your name can also be KTM or Yamaha or even Honda that needs to find something in the bike. Honda is pretty close, but they need to find something. What you will not look for or learn anything about in Jerez is horsepower, super drive, high speed, long braking areas. You don't have them here. But here you need to have a bike that turns super quickly with you and then follows the turn. That makes the lap time here. So, and if you suffer in that area, like all KTMs do hugely, you can. This is the day to go in and out and in and out and in and out and try some big things. Try some big things.
I mean, obviously this place is completely different to where we go next, Le Mans. Completely different. Barcelona, there's some long corners where you need the thing to turn. But to me, just watching what's going on and listening to a few riders, to me the kind of big story of the day is Jorge Martin, who he had over the weekend. He said he had 2 or 3 things to try, software, hardware, that he hasn't used this year, that Bezzecchi's been using at the first 3 races, which he won. But because Martin missed the first race, he didn't want to. The first test, and didn't have time in the last test, his first test in Thailand, to test these things. He decided not to use them at the first 3 races. There's so little time in a race weekend now. Now with the sprint and Friday afternoon, you're already pre-qualifying. You cannot risk, let's try this, and then find yourself getting confused and losing time. So he told us that these 3 or 4 things that he tried are all really big improvements. His words. I asked him in what area, and he said in braking, turning, and acceleration. You go like,
what more do we do except for the pit lane? That's it. That's
exactly.
Racing.
So he said he was quite significantly faster than he was yesterday because he had a rear tyre that wasn't quite right. Maybe he would have been on the podium otherwise. But he said he found 2 real tenths today. So if he found 2 real tenths over a 25 lap race, that's 5 seconds, is it? It's a lot. If that does translate, we've always we've never written off Martin. Lots of people last year wrote him off, but you know, he's still as hungry as ever, and he sort of got all the silly thoughts he had out of his head last year. You know, we keep saying it. I think he's a better bet for the title than Bezzecchi. We keep saying it.
Yeah, 100%. That's why my money is on him for the World Championship this year.
Yeah. I think we already said that on Friday, didn't we?
I keep saying it even if Bezzecchi beat him, but
yeah, sure.
The thing what convinced me again, even Sunday with Martin, and then we stop about Martin, it's about the test. He did a super aggressive start, made a lot of places. He went from P10 to 3. You can't overtake a MotoGP, but you can if you pay attention. And then he realized quickly, shit, this is not the tire grip that I see that others are having. I either risk more or I finish third or fourth. And since he's a little bit more mature, he decided third or fourth because he has his eye on the main prize. He knows it's possible.
Absolutely.
But anyway, in Aprilia, I didn't see... I was going to say I didn't see anything special today in the pit lane in Aprilia, except for one really, really weird thing, which is on the really nicely made huge part. Maybe you describe it better.
Like a big TV aerial, old school TV aerial, basically.
On the back of the bike,
an aero sensor, basically.
Basically, that's what they're doing. Like you know from Formula 1, and we've seen it in Aprilia before, a couple of years ago, they have a lot of pitot tubes, which are pressure sensors that you put in different places. And this is something similar. It looks very different, but the result is that why they are doing this, Aprilia, they validate if the computer models are correct.
Yeah.
Because the computer models say, if we have this wing here under this degree, and then the bike makes this degree, and the rider sits there, then we have this pressure here, this overpressure, underpressure, this, blah, blah, blah. But every now and then you want to make sure it's still happening, because it's not a car.
Life.
A lot is moving over a motorbike. So all
you
riders went out with it.
You've got the rider moving around.
So you just validate your computer wind tunnel. Yeah. That's what it is. It's the only thing I saw at Aprilia.
There was one other thing that I saw. So they had at the very bottom of the fairing on either side these kind of almost like kind of square buttons in a row, and obviously another aero thing. I mean, the thing that they weren't like a vortex generator. Vortex generators are designed to control the airflow, to speed it up, so that at the back of the fairing the airflow doesn't break up quickly, which causes drag. You want a super smooth. You want the air coming off the back of the fairing quite fast, so that the airflow doesn't break up.
You have a picture of it?
Yeah, I do. I'll put it on my. If you ever want to follow me on Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it, which is
Oxley Bomb has a Twitter channel.
Which I keep meaning to put it. I keep forgetting that. Follow Oxley Bomb or Matt Oxley. And they were weird with these. They didn't look like. We must get onto our aero expert and ask him. Ducati had sort of swing arm fairing aero, which Aprilia have had for quite a while. I mean, Ducati are just copying Aprilia on aero all the time now. You know, with the aerofoil on the back seat, with the leg wings, and now with the swing arm fairing, because they know that they've got to catch up. You know, and they were first and third yesterday, which suggests that they have closed the gap, but they still think that they're,
What I think it was at Aprilia, what you saw, I think it was a line of sensors to measure the pressure when the bike is making a lot of lean angle, and you have this ground effect where you speed up the air. Yeah. But you know it works, because here especially you know it works, but maybe you also want to know how much it works, or what we maybe need to do to make it also work with not the maximum lean angle. Anyway, they want to learn from how the bike reacts when the fairing is really close to the tarmac. I think that's what they're doing there. So back to another less spectacular manufacturer, go to Yamaha. What you should expect, considering where the program, where the whole situation is. I was expecting chassis, swing arms, fairings, maybe even more riders, but it's not a lot like that. Very little hardware to see that's new on the Yamaha so far. I might have missed something. I hope I missed something. But we spoke to Toprak, and he's basically concentrating on turn 3 and 4, because he said in all the other corners I'm quite close or good enough. In 3 and 4 I don't know why I need to improve there. But when he explains it, how it looks on there, he really goes deep. He said, when I look at Fabio's data and then mine, I already know. Yeah. The engine brake is not working there. But the
Toprak, for his style of braking, needs a very special style.
Well, he said normally you do a little bit of front braking into turn 3 and 4, a little bit of front, and you wait for the engine to to bring you back as well,
Right.
because the
And
engine
then
brake
turn
makes you also hold the line.
Yeah.
He said, but I have to keep on braking, and if I open the brake, I go wide. I think 30 minutes after he told us that, he crashed in turn 3. But the bike was still in one piece, because turn 3 you don't want to crash.
That's kind of what testing's for, is experimenting. And talking about Yamaha, they just recently I went down there and they've got the triple wavy wing on the front again, which they used to run on the V4. And check yesterday, Quattro was the fastest Yamaha in the race yesterday, his fastest race lap, and I know the track's different and so on, but this is quite a significant difference, was 1:38.4. He's just done a 1:36.8, so he's nearly 2 seconds faster than he was, So maybe, they're more than a second off the pace, basically. And maybe they found a few tenths here, because when you're a second off the pace, it's easier to find improvements than when you're 2 tenths off the pace. So, who knows? I mean, they were talking that they would have a new engine around this time, so maybe there's a new engine spec. Not a new engine, but a new spec.
When you listen to the riders, when they seem to look for everything. But I tell you one thing, if you give them a front feeling and a rear a little bit more grip, suddenly all the other problems are solved.
Yeah. Well, especially here, which isn't an engine racetrack
and
at
here
all.
on the back of the backstraight, where they measure the top speeds, which are super low, relatively low. After the first 1.5 hour this morning, the Yamahas were nearly 10 km/h down on Dani Pedrosa. But Dani Pedrosa is down in the time list, but up in the speed.
Right,
if you're 10 kilometers down on him, but this is not even a long straight. So you have turn 5, which is, you need to have the drive out of turn 5, and then you do 2 times shifts up, and then you already start to brake. So your top speed in Jerez comes from the drive out of turn 5. They don't have the drive. You don't need horsepower here.
Absolutely.
So.
Well, drive and wheelie as well, because it's a drops away.
Yeah, so it does wheelie. So Yamaha, not too sure about that. They had even a mechanical problem again. Two bikes came back, one from a crash, one with something stopped for some reason. Didn't seem to be a full panic, but anyway, somewhere at the back of the exhaust they started to work and then was out again. But still, little things that cost you the track time that they need so much over there.
I mean, Quattro is 4th at the moment. Again, it doesn't mean shit, but
that's the guy that was on pole last year.
It does seem to me that they're almost 2 seconds faster today than they were yesterday.
I really, really hope, because the project doesn't have enough speed so far. We're over a year with the bike.
It would be nice to see them. I mean, I was there outside the garage earlier on. I don't think I've ever seen so many people in a factory garage. It was just rammed. It was like they were having a party, except the atmosphere wasn't full of fun. But I mean, I would like to see them, because they're working their asses off without a doubt. They're not playing around, and it would be nice to see their work being rewarded a bit. So maybe we'll go to Le Mans and they'll be a little bit less than a second off the.
Le Mans always delivers weird results. So that's a whole other thing. Yeah. What else did we see? Aprilia, aero sensors, aero fairing, Yamaha. Aero, KTM, lots of aero also. KTM's definitely trying, because they lost so much in these super fast Kings that you have, like example 10 and 11 here. I went there on trackside to watch again, and I knew it before I went there, but I just want to feel it again. If you're trackside and you see how they have to enter turn 10 and then the kink of 11, the racing line is effectively half a meter wide for them with super high speed. So you close the throttle, you brake a little bit, you put the thing on your knee, almost on your elbow, and then it needs to stay there immediately. It needs to follow the line, which on the KTM apparently is a problem. So if it doesn't really follow the line, goes wide, you wait until you can open, and that's it. So,
I mean, the turns 11 and 12, as you said, 10 and 11, but you mean 11 and 12.
Yeah, sorry,
11 and 12 are probably two of the most challenging corners in the championship.
How close to,
super fast. And that you go in there very aggressively, and if you run wide, you're completely screwed. You're going to have to,
It might be coincidence, but the KTM and Yamaha spotters were all there with me. They were watching that corner.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it wasn't a coincidence. Yeah. Cool. Are we done? We've got to run for the airport. I'm going home. You're going to India, aren't you?
I have a secret mission. Your words somewhere else. Yeah. I'm a couple of flights to go. Yeah, whatever. Okay. So this test I was hoping for a little bit more. I was hoping to see more things in the Yamaha garage. You said there were a lot of people. I will go back there now straight after this podcast and hope to see some special parts. But the way Gino Berzoy was also talking to us, he keeps on saying, yeah, well, we started with a blank sheet. Well, after a year, it's not longer a blank sheet for me. It should be somewhere. But I really want them to speed up. They must have, now while I'm thinking of it, they must have had something quite special this morning, because Fabio went to Jack when after Jack came in with the bike and wanted to speak with him about something that was on the bike. Then Rich joined the conversation. There was something that they wanted to share their opinions about, and you know.
Yeah, that normally means something is significant, doesn't it? Yeah. All right.
No, we don't.
No, I think we're done.
This is the test here, and up to Le Mans.
Thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll be back next Sunday with a podcast on the Sunday between Jerez and Le Mans. Okay.
What do we do this
month? Guys. It's secret. We're not telling anyone. Okay. It's always secret.
Okay, bye everyone.
Bye.